Conscious Leadership Podcast, the human side of leadership, where consciousness meets practical business leadership. The podcast dives into real challenges managers face, from team motivation to navigating change. Discover actionable insight, proven strategies, and inspiring stories to help you lead with clarity, authenticity, and impact. Whether you are an SME owner, a team leader, or simply passionate about conscious leadership, this podcast will equip you with the tools to build stronger teams, foster trust, and achieve sustainable success. Tune in, lead consciously, and make a difference. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Conscious Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Boris Nedved. In my last episode, Management versus Leadership and why the difference matters now more than ever, I explored how management and leadership are not the same thing. Management creates coherence, keeping systems aligned and stable. Leadership creates the resonance, aligning people with meaning and purpose. Confuse the two and you get burnout, bureaucracy, and a culture that feels flat. This week, I want to build on that idea with something I recently read that struck something in me. The brilliant minds at Corporate Rebels published an article titled, "Let's Fire All the Micromanagers." It's bold, direct, and honestly, they are trying to call out the damage micromanagement does. It suffocates teams, kills trust, and drains the life out of organizations. But as I read it, I noticed something deeper, something the article hints but doesn't quite name. The piece speaks passionately about leadership, yet many of the behaviors it describes, and even some of the visuals, belong more to the world of management than true leadership. And that's not a criticism of Corporate Rebels. It's an invitation to look closer at where micromanagement actually begins. Where does it come from? Because micromanagement isn't born from bad intentions or toxic personalities. It's born from the way we grew and grow people in organizations. We take detailed-oriented experts, the analysts, engineers, consultants, and we promote them for their precision. We elevate them into management roles for their expertise. But no one teaches them how to let go of the details that once defined their success, that once let them grow up into the new management position. No one teaches them how to shift from control to trust. Micromanagement is therefore not a failure of leadership. It's the shadow side of management go unchecked. It's what happens when we mistake knowing how things work for knowing how people grow. And I can tell you from experience, I've been there. I was an SAP expert, deep in the details of systems and processes. When I took over a team to build a master data and identity management framework, I thought I was leading. But in truth, I was still managing through control, because control felt safe. It took me 2 years to unlearn that habit. 2 years to stop doing it faster myself, to trust my team, to let go of being the expert and to become an enabler. So in this episode, I want to go deeper than fire the micromanagers. I want to explore why micromanagement exists, what it reveals about our organizational systems, and how to evolve from control into coherence and from management into leadership. Because before we can fix micromanagement, we have to understand what created it. Micromanagement rarely starts with arrogance. It starts with fear. More precisely with competence. Most micromanagers didn't wake up one day and decide to control every detail of their team's work. They were once high-performing experts, the best in their field. They knew their systems, processes, or tools inside out. They were the ones others came to for answers. That's how they got promoted. In most organizations, the path upward is paved with mastery of detail. You start as an analyst, engineer, or consultant. You learn the ropes prove yourself through precision, and become the go-to person for your domain. Eventually, that excellence gets rewarded with a managerial role. The expert becomes the manager. But here's where the problem starts. No one teaches you how to let go of the details that made you so successful. And that transition from expert to manager is one of the most emotionally demanding evolutions in a career. Because suddenly, what made you safe is no longer what makes you effective. Micromanagement begins as a survival strategy. When new managers feel insecure in their new role, they naturally retreat to the one thing they can trust, their expertise. It's their anchor in unfamiliar territory. I know this intimately because I lived it. Before I led teams, I was an SAP expert. I had mastered multiple modules, knew the logic behind every transaction, and loved diving deep into the systems. Then came the opportunity leading a team to build a master data and identity management framework across the global organization I worked for. It sounded exciting and I was ready. At least I thought I was. But here's what happened. As the team grew and new members joined, I found myself constantly stepping back into the system, writing scripts, checking tables, reviewing configurations that others had done. Every time I saw something off, I thought, I can fix this faster myself. And every time I did, I robbed someone else the chance to grow. It wasn't about ego. It was about fear. The details were my comfort zone. They made me feel useful, relevant, and in control. Managing people felt abstract and messy. The code didn't argue back. The data didn't question me. But people? They require trust, patience, and vulnerability on my side. That's why micromanagement is so hard to unlearn. It's not a behavioral issue. It's in fact an identity issue. It's the tension between who you were and who you are becoming. Let's be honest. No leadership program talks about this. We train people in delegation frameworks, communication skills, but we rarely help them navigate the grief that comes with letting go of being the expert. It took me almost 2 years to detach from that identity. 2 years to stop helping by jumping in. 2 years to transfer knowledge instead of hoarding it. 2 years to build trust in others' capabilities instead of needing to prove my own. That's when I unlearned or learned. Micromanagement isn't a failure of leadership. It's a sign of emotional transition stuck halfway between management and leadership. It's the coping mechanism of people who care deeply but haven't yet learned to trust the system or themselves in a new way. And that's why instead of firing micromanagers, we should be helping them evolve. Let's set the record straight. Micromanagement is for me not a failure of leadership. It's a distortion, a shadow of management. Leadership and management both play vital roles. As we discussed in episode 37, management creates coherence, while leadership creates resonance. Management keeps the system aligned, predictable and structured. Leadership connects people to purpose, energy and meaning. But when coherence turns into control, it loses its light and it becomes its own shadow. That's where micromanagement lives. Micromanagement is coherence gone rigid. It's the system trying to preserve order through domination rather than trust. And in quantum terms, it's the moment when coherence collapses under its own density, when a structure that once supported alignment becomes so tight it suffocates flow. From a pure business standpoint, micromanagement might look like over-detailed reviews, endless approval cycles, or a boss who has to double-check everything. Energetically, it's much deeper than that. It's the frequency of mistrust. It's what happens when a manager's fear overrides the team's natural rhythm. Micromanagement replaces flow with friction. It creates noise in the system. It's management disconnected from resonance. And here's the contradiction. Micromanagers often have good intentions. They want things to go well. They care about the outcome. But their energy communicates something entirely different. I don't trust you. And the moment that message hits the field, resonance collapses. People disengage, creativity drops, and the collective energy starts to contract. This is why you can't train micromanagement out of someone with another checklist or performance framework. It's not a skills gap. It's a state of being issue. It's about nervous system regulation, about shifting from anxiety-driven coherence to trust-based resonance. You can see this dynamic everywhere in organizations. A manager who adds 5 extra layers of approval because things need to be perfect. A project lead who reworks the team's output overnight because it's faster if I do it myself. Or a department head who demands daily updates on every task but wonders why the team stopped taking initiative. Each of these examples isn't bad leadership. It's overextended management. It's coherence trying to compensate for lack of resonance. This is where human design and conscious awareness change everything. When you understand your energetic design, you begin to see where your drive for control originates. For some, it's in the defined centers, deep internal certainty that turns rigid under stress. For others, it's in openness, absorbing collective pressure and mistaking it for responsibility. And once you see your pattern, you can start to choose differently. Micromanagement dissolves not when you learn better delegation, but when you recalibrate your own energy. When you shift from I must control to I can trust, from I need to fix to I can empower. In this sense, micromanagement is a doorway, a mirror showing you where your coherence has lost connection to resonance. It's not a flaw, it's a signal. And if you're willing to listen to that signal, it can become your greatest teacher. So here's something almost no one talks about. Micromanagement is not a behavioral issue. For me, as I said before, it's an identity crisis. It's what happens in the invisible gap between being an expert and becoming a leader. It's the uncomfortable middle space where you're no longer rewarded for doing, but not yet confident in guiding. It's the emotional turbulence of letting go of who you were to grow into your meant to be. Most people rise through the ranks because of their expertise. They were the ones who knew the answers, fixed the problems, delivered results. That's how they earned recognition. Their self-worth, sometimes even their identity, became fused with their competence. Then suddenly everything changes. They are promoted into a managerial or leadership position where the metrics of success are no longer clear. They are expected to lead through others, to inspire instead of execute, to empower instead of control. But inside, something in them resists letting go, because letting go feels like losing themselves. Micromanagement is the nervous system's way of saying, I don't feel safe here. And when you move from a space of mastery into a space of uncertainty, your mind and body crave familiarity. Where do they find it? Yeah, in the details, in the data, in the work you used to do better and faster than anyone else. That's why micromanagement feels comforting, even though it's destructive. It's a subconscious attempt to reclaim control, to prove to yourself that you still know what you're doing. It's definitely not driven by arrogance. It's driven by the fear of irrelevance. I've seen it countless times, and I lived it myself. When I led my first large-scale team, I thought I had to be on top of everything, And that's what was told. You have to be on top of everything. You have to know everything. I told myself it was about quality. But really it was about identity. I couldn't yet separate my worth from my output. Traditional leadership training doesn't touch this. It gives you models, frameworks, and buzzwords. Servant leadership, delegation mastery, emotional intelligence. But it doesn't help you navigate the psychological disorientation that comes with giving up your old source of validation. No one tells you that you'll grieve your expertise, that you'll feel useless in meetings where you no longer are the smartest person in the room, that you'll question whether your value is still tangible when your contribution shifts from doing to being. This is the real transformation work that's missing in most organizations, because you can't teach leadership as a checklist. It has to be experienced as an inner evolution. From a quantum leadership perspective, this is the moment where your frequency shifts from individual coherence to collective resonance. You're no longer stabilizing your own energy. You're holding the field for others. Completely different thing. You're no longer defining yourself by what you know. You're defined by how deeply you can listen, sense, and guide. But that shift requires emotional safety, self-awareness, and support. Without it, the system collapses inward. Managers revert to their old habits, cling to their expertise, recreate the very dynamics they were promoted to change. And that's the tragic irony. Organizations that promote experts into management roles without preparing them for this inner transition are unknowingly manufacturing micromanagers. They are building it themselves. The solution isn't to fire them. It's to retrain their identity. It's to help them. We need to create environments that normalize the discomfort of letting go, that provide mentors who model that trust-based leadership looks like, and that measure success not just by KPIs, but by how much autonomy and confidence leaders create in others. Because the truth is, micromanagement isn't a personality defect. It's a developmental stage that some people never get guided through and possibly get stuck in there. And until we recognize that, we'll keep mistaking a cry for safety as a failure of leadership. The corporate rebels are right to call for firing micromanagers. I personally would phrase it differently. Let's evolve them. Beneath all of it lies something profoundly human. Micromanagement is born out of care. They care out of the deep desire to get it right, not to let things fall apart, to be responsible in a world that rewards control. It's the heartbeat of someone who once believed that mastery meant holding everything together, only to realize that true leadership begins when we finally learn to let go. Because leadership in this new era isn't about climbing the ladder higher. It's about transmitting frequency. It's about coherence and resonance, stability and flow, working together in harmony. When you shift from control to trust, from mind to alignment, everything changes. Your team feels it, the organization feels it, and you personally feel it, deep down in your nervous system. That calm, grounded confidence that no longer needs to prove, only to be. That's the essence of quantum leadership. It's leadership that's felt, not forced. It's management that holds the structure without killing the spirit. It's direction born from alignment, not from anxiety. And it begins when you understand your human design, when you discover how your energy is wired to lead, decide, and influence without burning out. So if you're ready to stop over managing and start resonating, to move from pressure to power, from exhaustion to alignment, this is your moment. You can start by downloading my in-depth white paper, Letting Go of Control, why micromanagement is a management crisis, not a leadership issue. It's available now on humaninthecenter.com, my website. In it, I go deeper into everything we discussed today. The psychology, the energy mechanics, the human design lens, and how to practically shift from control to conscious leadership. You can join me as well for the Quantum Leadership webinar on October 28. Together we'll explore how to integrate quantum leadership, energetic awareness, into your leaderships, so you can recognize your unique control patterns and transform them into trust signals. Lead from presence, not pressure, and build teams that thrive in coherence and resonance. Because for me, the future doesn't belong to those who manage harder. It belongs to those who lead consciously, to those who dare to slow down, sense deeply, and act in alignment with what's real, not just what's measurable. So visit humaninthecenter.com, my website, to download a white paper, get your free human design chart, and register for the Quantum Leadership webinar. Until the next time, stay intentional, stay conscious, keep leading with purpose from the inside out. And remember, you were never meant to control the system. You were designed to conduct the energy. Thank you for listening to the Conscious Leadership Podcast. Look forward to the next episode to come, and stay intentional, stay conscious, and keep leading with purpose. Until the next time, bye.